Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you're coming to us in the world today. My name is Jonathan LaCour, and I am here to walk through cloud security in a changing world. Really looking forward to it. I'm joined by Dan Webb from AlertLogic. We'll do some more introductions in a moment, but before we get started, a few pieces of housekeeping. You will notice here in the lovely GoToWebinar interface that you have the ability to ask us questions in the Q&A section. There's also a chat feature. We'll monitor both for questions. Obviously, if you can submit those questions into the Q&A section, that's easier for us to track. So that would be appreciated. You'll also note that there is a section called handouts. In there, we have a couple of documents that you can take with you afterwards today. One is a data sheet about Mission MDR, which is one of the things we're going to be discussing today. And another is an actually ebook, which is about securing your SaaS journey. So it's a very good ebook. I encourage you to download both of those. And with that, let's get started. So as I mentioned, my name is Jonathan LaCour. I am the Chief Technology Officer at Mission. We'll introduce Mission as well in a little bit, but my background is a technologist. I'm a programmer as well, although I don't get to do it as much as I'd like to anymore. And I'm also a cloud strategist. I lead Mission's platform, service delivery, and product teams. And I have deep experience with cloud infrastructure and cloud services, both as a consumer of them, an operator, and a builder. So really looking forward to the conversation today. And as I mentioned, I'm joined by Dan, and I'm gonna let him introduce himself.
Hey, Jonathan, thank you. So Dan Webb, I'm Vice President of Partner Sales and Alliances at AlertLogic. Been in the cybersecurity industry for 17 years now, spent the last 7 with AlertLogic, and all of that time working very collaboratively, there we go, with Amazon Web Services. So my role at AlertLogic, I oversee our strategic alliances, and in particular that relationship with AWS, as well as enabling the majority of our partner ecosystem to collaborate with our sales team. And have been a sponsor of the Mission and AlertLogic relationship from its inception.
Great. Well, Dan, great to have you here. So we should also talk a little bit about who we are as businesses. So Mission is a AWS premier consulting partner and managed service provider. As that implies, we are 100% focused on AWS. And we have a kind of a one-stop shop mentality, right? We're your comprehensive AWS partner, kind of across the entire cloud journey, right? So from an architecture perspective, we can do migration readiness assessments, which we'll talk about today, technology roadmaps and POCs, migrations, full-on AWS management as well, so account management, 24/7 monitoring support, some great security services, which we'll touch on, and continuous optimization. So from a cost optimization perspective, attribution, application performance management, and discounted AWS pricing. In terms of our background and a little bit about our competencies and capabilities, we have a whole slew of AWS competencies. That means that we are audited by AWS to actually have real-world experience that is validated across a variety of different aspects. So that includes migration, DevOps, Microsoft workloads, the SaaS kind of vertical, healthcare and life sciences as well. We also have some designations, including the fact that we're an MSP with AWS, and we're part of the solution provider program, well-architected, and immersion day partners. Also note that as security is a big focus for us at Mission, we're also SOC 2 Type 2 compliant and a variety of other compliances as well. So that's a little bit about who Mission is. And Dan, why don't you tell us a little bit more about AlertLogic?
Would love to, thank you, Jonathan. So AlertLogic is a ISV, a specialist security ISV in the category of managed detection and response. We've been around since 2002, headquartered down in Houston, Texas. And since the inception of our company, we've really believed in delivering security as an outcome to our customers. So we've been combining proprietary technology with human-delivered security expertise for close to 20 years now. We're experts in the field of AWS security. Not only are our products and services built on AWS, we've actually been actively defending AWS customers since 2011, which is a very long time in Amazon years, any of you that have been following that journey. So we really have a really robust set of skills there and a lot of expertise that we can share with our customers. We operate 2 24/7 security operations centers, one over in the UK in Cardiff, Wales, and one in Houston, Texas, where our headquarters is based. And we really see ourselves as the leader in managed security for cloud, and that's been validated by a number of analysts. So you'll see a quote there from Forrester. So they actually did the only real kind of global analysis of the managed security service provider market in 2020. And not only did they cite that AlertLogic was a leader, but they really called out the fact that our ability to continue to run circles around the competition in cloud is really the core reason for our leadership. As it relates to our AWS relationship, we're in the APN, we're an advanced technology partner. We hold multiple competencies, as you can see there, including security and containers. And we enjoy a very strong relationship, both with AWS and Mission, that we bring to bear in our activities to really solve for the security requirements of customers that are looking to digitally transform on the AWS platform.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dan. So a little bit about what we're going to be discussing today. Here's our agenda. So we're going to start kind of by framing the conversation, talking about the state of security, especially security in the cloud. And Dan's going to really walk us through that section. Then we're going to talk about the role that security plays in the 3 phases of a cloud journey. So regardless of whether you are in the process, whether you're thinking about moving to the cloud or you're full of in the midst of a digital transformation initiative, we'll talk about how security plays a part there. Finally, we'll go into a little bit more depth about Mission MDR, which is powered by AlertLogic, and that's a service that we've built together that we really feel is a complete solution to the challenge here. And then we'll have some time for Q&A. So, but before that, what I'd love to do is do a quick poll just to kind of get a pulse on the audience, and I will share these results with the group. So here it is. Where is your organization in its cloud journey? And feel free to submit that. It is anonymous, but you will see the results. I see them flowing in. Thank you for responding so quickly. I like having the ability to see the results as they come in. I get a little preview. Still need a few more folks to vote. Give it another 5 or 6 seconds. Fantastic. Ooh. Oh wow, it's really starting to see the trends shift here. I feel like maybe I need one of those big boards to track it. Okay, let's go ahead and share those results. We have most people responding. Whoops, there we go. I'll share the results again. Wow, so far a small percentage of you are not yet evaluating cloud providers. Most of you already have workloads on AWS. And a significant chunk of you are active evaluating several cloud providers for migration. So this is great, really good context for this will be very helpful. All right, so let's dive into the state of cloud security. But before we do that, one more thing to mention is please do stick around to the end. We have a special offer at the very end, right before we go into Q&A. So stick around for that. And with that, I'll hand it over to Dan for a state of security today.
Thank you, Jonathan. So I think firstly, I'm a firm believer that security plays a unique role in enabling digital transformation for organizations, right? I think we've never been at a point in time where security's ability to accelerate an organization's cloud goals has been so clear. But in order to do that, you need to overcome a number of challenges that we're seeing out there today. So the first is, whilst digital transformation, if done correctly, has the potential to unlock huge business benefit, it comes with its own challenges. The approach you most likely took to securing your traditional environments ahead of moving to the cloud is most likely going to need some form of transformation. It's unlikely to be able to come with you on the journey as is. And there's obviously a number of technological advancements that are bringing with them additional security challenges around visibility and control. On top of that, there is a tremendous skills gap as it relates to cybersecurity. I don't think there's a single unfilled cybersecurity position out there right now, and millions that need to be filled. So, even if you do have the necessary technology, finding the skills to really be able to translate the output of those tools and technologies into actions that your business can take and really kind of maintain the level of resourcing to keep your security posture at its strongest level is going to be challenging for most organizations. I've been in the security industry for 17 years, so I'm allowed to say this. We have been part of the problem and continue to be to some degree. There is just a massive amount of complexity as it relates to the sheer volume of choice you have as to how you're going to approach handling your security responsibilities. I don't know if anybody on the line here has ever walked the floor of the RSA conference as an example, but you're likely to find hundreds of different vendors saying pretty much the same thing, but when you dig underneath it, it's all different. So it's been a challenge, and I think organizations are starting to realize that trying to sift through all of that to get to what they really need to do is something that they're finding increasingly difficult. And on top of that, the bad guys are getting better at what they do, and there's more of them. And I think you can take these 4 challenges and then just write 2020 underneath them. Obviously, everything that's happened so far this year has only helped to exacerbate these challenges as we've seen workforces move to remote, and obviously a whole bunch of new opportunities to exploit conditions around the world that have been a byproduct of the pandemic from an attacker standpoint. So, you lay that backdrop against the challenges that you're going to face as an organization as you really look to address your security and compliance responsibilities. Obviously, compliance itself is complex. It's a moving target. There's a number of regulations out there. Finding a way to, really kind of best utilize your own resources to not just achieve a compliant state, but maintain it is challenging. Accelerated cloud adoption is, as I said, a great way to, transform your business and unleash the power that brings in terms of improving your customer experience. But with that, there are challenges from a security standpoint around visibility, control, being able to take a consistent approach to managing hybrid environments if that's the path that you're going down. Detecting and responding to threats is a continuous evolving process and challenge. Again, there are different schools of thoughts as to how you approach this. You've got different layers of your technology stack that you're going to be getting different data sources from and intelligence from, and trying to knit that all together into a clear picture as to who might be attacking you, how they're attacking you, why they're attacking you, are they likely to be successful, and what you need to do about it is an evolving challenge. And ultimately, just being able to understand and translate risk to the business. I think that's been a challenge of the security industry for many, many years. How do you talk to the business in a language that I understand about what's going on and actually have the proof points to back it up, so that ultimately you can deliver peace of mind back to the stakeholders within your organization. So what we found is that, really in order to be successful in protecting your organization and maintaining a good security posture, you need information, you need intelligence, and you need expertise, and you need all of those components to come together into a well-oiled machine to really allow you to maintain that security posture. And you can build this one out, Jonathan, and I'll kind of talk through it as you do so. So most importantly, you need the ability to start by collecting relevant information, and you can keep building. It's a long build, this one.
I can tell.
So let me take a step back. Firstly, there's really kind of 2 approaches that we see to maintaining a good security posture here. There's the DIY mindset that really involves you going out and acquiring the right technologies to allow you to do these things, collect all the information that you need from a set of security tools, bring those all together and analyze that data set holistically, and then have the resources on your side to staff an operation that can then take the output of those tools and take action on it. The alternative is you look for a solution or a partner that really provides you with a platform that can holistically collect all the different data sources across all your different deployment scenarios, whether you're in traditional data centers, in cloud environments, in a mixture of all of those things. Give you the ability to then bring all of those data points into a single viewpoint, aggregate all of that data and analyze it using multiple different methods, and then obviously have expertise on hand when you need it to be able to translate that into actions that need to be taken by your organization or that you can hand off to a managed provider like Mission. And what we found is that if you do go down the DIY path, then you need to be ready for a long journey and one that can be quite expensive and resource intensive. So research shows that to successfully staff a 24/7 security operations center, you're going to need somewhere in the region of 15 to 20 security experts. And as we talked about earlier in the market conditions piece, that expertise is not easy to find. It's even harder to retain. Security talent is in hot demand. And I'll give you an interesting anecdote. When I first started working for AlertLogic, obviously being a Houston headquartered company, really depending on the price of oil at the time and how well that market was doing would depend on how aggressively the big oil companies would come and try and steal staff from our SOC. In fact, there was a story going around at one point that some of the larger companies in that space would kind of turn up every now and then in a bus in the car park of our company, waving signs saying, "Hey, double your pay if you come and work for this very large oil and gas company here." So, folks are out there aggressively pursuing any staff that you do bring on and upskill. So, it's an ongoing challenge to be able to staff a security operations center. You're going to need to spend a lot of money on getting those folks up to speed and certified and maintaining those certifications. The salaries, as we mentioned, are pretty high even at an entry point. And then on top of that, you've got the costs of making sure you have the right tooling in place, maintaining that tooling, and making sure that you have all the right investments in the content and intelligence you need to feed into that tooling in order for it to be effective. So the bottom line here is that going in-house from a security operations standpoint is costly and challenging. And really, that in my experience, really outside of the very largest organizations out there, getting to a point where a security operations center is fully functional and delivering the value the business expects is a long journey, and it's going to cost you somewhere in the region of 2 to 5 million annually. And there's a number of different kind of data sources and analyst reports that back that up. On the plus side, if you are able to get it right, there's huge upside. So I think this is a story that's been told for some time now, but the reality is that it doesn't take long for the bad guys to get in, right? It's easy for you to be breached, and most attacks are executed and are successful within minutes. Yet what you'll find is that most organizations take far longer to even realize that they've been attacked and to really kind of discover the extent of the breach and the damage that it's done. So getting into a situation where you can really look at your threat, the threat facing your organization and your risk scenario in kind of 3 stages. There's activity that needs to happen pre-breach and that will happen there. And if you kind of look at the model known as the cyber kill chain, this is really about understanding the steps that attackers would be taking to try and find a way in, right? Are they going to be able to see vulnerabilities or misconfigurations or that have kind of been a result of drift in terms of how you've managed your infrastructure and technology, and be able to poke holes in that they can then use to get in and do whatever it is that they're planning to do to either disrupt your business, extract data, whatever the outcome is they're trying to drive towards. Obviously, when that attack kicks off, you're really now into a critical situation where seconds and minutes matter. So being able to understand what's happening, why it's happening, how it's happening, and what to do about it in real time is absolutely critical. And obviously, in a situation where you have been breached, then it's really about understanding the extent of your compromise, what steps need to be taken to clean that up, and obviously importantly, what actions can you take to establish the root cause of these issues and take the steps to prevent it from happening again. So if you're able to condense that into minutes, hours even, you're going to find yourself in a very elite group of companies. As we mentioned, most take days, weeks, months in order to be able to respond to these types of threats and maintain a level of cyber resilience. So as mentioned, really, in order to successfully protect your organization, you're going to need to think about the world as we define it as kind of left of boom and right of boom, or pre-breach, boom and post-breach. So pre-breach is really around having the visibility to understand the operating environment that you're trying to defend, and making sure that you're continuously addressing threats, vulnerabilities, and configuration issues to maintain the strongest security posture possible, and to harden the environments that somebody might be trying to infiltrate in order to get to whatever your key assets might be. Then obviously post-breach, it's about reducing the impact of any attack. So being able to rapidly detect and respond to any suspicious or malicious activity and take clear, precise action that is either going to mitigate that threat in its tracks and prevent it from having any impact, or at least if there is some level of success and compromise, be able to respond and as we said, get yourself back to that cyber resilient state as fast as possible, so that you can continue business as usual and reduce any risk, financial risk, reputational risk, disruption to your business that might come from this scenario. So hopefully, Jonathan, that's kind of laid out the challenge that we're facing and approaches to solving it. I'd love to hand over to you here now so that you can talk through the role that security plays in the cloud transformation journey.
Thanks, Dan. Great tee up. I mean, it's really good to see, kind of understanding how security has really evolved in the last kind of decade, and even over the last 5 years, if you really think about it. And the cloud is obviously a big component of that. So we did want to talk about, in the different phases of people's kind of journey to the cloud, what is security's role? So you really teed it up well, that security isn't a activity that you do once. It isn't a box that you check. It's a continuously applied process and a frame of mind and ongoing obligation. And as businesses move to the cloud and launch these digital transformation initiatives, they have to think about security in each phase, right? And there's lots of different views on what the phases are, but for the purposes of our conversation, we're going to focus on 3 phases. Okay, first is the migration phase. And during this phase, a business is defining its cloud strategy. It's thinking about its readiness to actually make that move, doing a significant amount of planning, and then finally executing against that migration plan. Next up comes modernization. The focus here really starts to shift to taking advantage of all that the public cloud has to offer. You're there now. Now you can start doing things like adopting more managed services, containerizing your workloads, re-architecting for microservices, and so on. And there are unique security challenges and questions in that phase. And finally, there's the optimization phase. And this is all about continuous improvement. Yes, it is about cost optimization, but it's also staying on top of the rapid pace of change. Yes, you're going to drive down your costs, but you need to implement additional best practices, build on the foundation of the first two phases to really take full advantage and fully optimize for the cloud. And each of these phases that I mentioned has unique security challenges. So let's talk through each phase in a little bit more detail. So phase one is migration. And whenever I talk about migration, I always like to call upon a quote from an amazing race car driver, Bobby Unser, who said that success is where preparation and opportunity meet. And I love that quote. And Amelia Earhart, if you're more of an adventurer or an explorer, said that preparation is roughly 2/3 of any venture. And I think that is so true here for migrations to the cloud. Most people think that the bulk of the work on a migration is the heavy lift of making the move to the cloud. And while there is certainly lots of work involved in performing a migration, the reality is a successful migration is a carefully considered migration. And there's two aspects that I want to touch on here. First is the concept of a migration readiness assessment, or an MRA. And the second is introducing the concept of the AWS shared responsibility model, which is a really important thing to understand fully and in depth before making a migration to the cloud. So let's start with MRAs. Mission, as you saw earlier, has received the migration competency from AWS, and that's based upon a track record of success. And that means that we've demonstrated that success with real-world migrations and that we have a defensible and successful methodology. And our methodology includes a phase for completing this migration readiness assessment in advance of a migration. And it's designed to do several things. So the first thing it can do is it can identify any changes that need to be made, including at the system level, application level, but honestly, a lot of it is at the culture and process level. Is your business ready for a migration to the cloud? And these need to be assessed and understood to ensure that you have security post-migration, right? The second thing that it does is it captures a detailed outline of your security requirements, including requirements that are based on your organizational goals, best practices, compliance requirements that you may have, and it helps you build out a security framework that can be built into your migration plan, right? So for example, you may want to implement regular checkpoints for security and compliance at each phase of the migration. You may want to enforce the documentation and operationalization of security constraints throughout the process so they can be continuously monitored and enforced, prepping for a successful migration. And finally, the MRA gives you clarity, visibility, understanding the gaps that you need to close as you build out your migration plan. So this is a critical phase in the process. Mission does these all the time. So we're absolutely here to help you, and security, obviously a huge component. And before we talk about the shared responsibility model, I'm going to give a quick poll and ask if you understand what the shared responsibility model is. And do you understand which components of the model are your responsibility versus AWS's? And if you don't, that's totally okay. I'm about to tell you, which is really exciting, but just want to understand if people have heard about it and understand fully where they fit in and where AWS fits in. And I will share these results.
I was just going to say, while the poll is running, I think one comment I wanted to make about the importance of that readiness exercise. I think the most common mistake we see from our perspective as a security specialist is a lack of alignment of stakeholders and an understanding of the role security needs to play as the organization gets ready for migration. Worst case scenario is, you get some way down that path and, somebody is not really kind of thought through the implications from a security or compliance standpoint. And suddenly the whole program grinds to a halt because some issue has come about. I'm sure you've seen that a million times before as well. Nothing worse than derailing a successful migration program because security was an afterthought.
Absolutely. The MRA really forces you to have those internal conversations and really think about your culture. What are your business goals? Are we all aligned on what we're trying to accomplish, what it's going to require? Because if you don't have that, you're not going to have success. So let's go ahead and share the results of that poll. I'm actually kind of encouraged by this. That means that we have a lot to talk about, and I'm not surprised. 63% of you said that you don't fully grasp the full breadth and depth of the AWS shared responsibility model yet, and so let's dive right in. It's a great opportunity for us. So AWS actually created the shared responsibility model as a way to help customers understand how the overall security and compliance of cloud workloads depends on both AWS and the customer themselves. And the best way to think about this is that AWS is responsible for the security of the cloud, and you, the customer, are responsible for security in the cloud. And what do we really mean by that? Well, AWS handles sort of the what they call undifferentiated heavy lifting, right? The underlying platform security, the physical network, the data centers themselves, the hardening of the hypervisor, physical security, the data centers, as I mentioned, and you, the customer, are responsible for the building blocks, taking the building blocks that AWS provides, the services, and using them in a responsible way to build out secured workloads, right? In other words, you don't make a move to the cloud because you're trying to outsource your entire responsibility for your security of your business. AWS does help offload significant amounts. So if you are in an on-prem environment today, you're responsible for physical access. You're responsible for a lot of those aspects of security. So it does offload some of the burden, but it's important to understand that you're still responsible for quite a bit. So if you see here, in the shared responsibility model, the dark blue is AWS and the gray is you, the customer. And across the platform, you see they handle a significant, percentage of that on the networking side, physical segmentation, perimeter security, DDoS and spoofing, host level controls, hardening of the hypervisor and the system image library. AWS does a lot of the lift, but there's still plenty of work for you to do. You have to handle your own access management, logical segmentation, least privilege access. AWS gives you this extremely rich catalog of building blocks, and it's up to you to utilize them responsibly. So that can be a bit of a struggle. And this is one of the ways that Mission and Alert Logic are really here to help, right? We can help you with many portions of the shared responsibility model that AWS would otherwise leave completely to you. Dan really did mention earlier and did a great job of showing what it really takes to build out from an investment perspective and how difficult it is to build that out, a security operations center and security expertise and all the technology on your team. That's hard to do. And that's part of the reason that Mission Alert Logic exists, is to be a partner to businesses who need help getting there. And what we've done here is we've really overlaid segments of the overall shared responsibility model where Mission and the customer and Alert Logic can own it together. We can work with you to ensure that we can do threat detection, log analysis, compliance reporting, software patching. That's where that partnership really comes together. And that's the value of it, right? And so now that you understand what the shared responsibility model looks like and how much of that responsibility is yours, this is really a great opportunity for us to illustrate the value that Mission Alert Logic can bring, right? We can really ease the load.
And Jonathan, I wanted to make a comment there. So I think, this is back to the kind of mindset piece, right? If you remember the build out slide there, the long build out slide, should we call it, that kind of talks about the difference between the DIY mindset and, and someone that kind of looks to, get support and expertise where they need it. I think there's really, two reasons why you might decide against DIY, right? So the first is obviously, just kind of looking at, again, the breadth and depth of technology requirements, resource requirements, and expertise requirements that you need to build out. But for some organizations, they could do that, right? They do have that capability, but the question is, should they really make that investment, right? Would those investments be better placed elsewhere where they could really kind of drive towards your core competencies and goals that you're trying to deliver as a business? I think we're starting to really see that evolution in the mindset, especially again against the backdrop of the current kind of climate, right, and everything that's happened this year. That kind of force, that race towards digitization. Does it make sense for you to try and build out a robust security competency when you could go and make those investments in other areas that might unlock new revenue, new customers, new growth opportunities?
Get to market with new products, innovate, improve for customers. Lots of things to consider. Thanks for that, Dan. So let's talk about phase 2, which is modernization. And as I mentioned before, this is part of the journey that people are generally the most excited about, right? And why is that? Well, in this phase, your teams get to leverage all the power and flexibility and scalability afforded by the cloud to make things better, and they're really excited. But it is a bit of a double-edged sword. So the cloud gives you all this power at your fingertips, right? Self-service, available on demand, and with the click of a button, the execution of a shell script, or a few little API calls, you can spin up workloads, provision resources at will, and it's incredibly powerful. And that's why people are so attracted. It accelerates your innovation. It can drive you forward, really give you that velocity you need to be successful in the market. But it's also really dangerous if you're not really thinking about the implications of that, right? Do you have the right guardrails in place, the right structures and process to ensure that you're not moving, maybe too quickly or not in a very well considered way? So earlier, I beat home the point about preparation, right? And I think this is another area where that's very true. You don't get to stop preparing, right? In this phase, you have to consider what solutions to deploy to ensure that you have visibility into how well your dynamic infrastructure and environment are adhering to best practices. Managed solutions are a really good option here. They give you access to this kind of magical combination of expert people, battle-tested process, and highly effective tools that can really drive success. And in this phase, there's a few initiatives that many people consider during modernization. So first is creating a regular cadence, benchmarking your workload against the shared responsibility model, and above and beyond that, against many of the best practices. AWS provides some kind of built-in tools for this, but Alert Logic has some outstanding ones as well. And another great resource here is the AWS Well-Architected Framework, which collects, hundreds of best practices learned from thousands and thousands of customers over millions of workloads. And they've really put this together as here are things that you need to be considering as you're moving ahead. So I encourage you to read up on that. I've actually done a webinar series on the shared responsibility, or not the shared responsibility model, the well-architected framework a few years ago. So still up, and you can check that out. And the second initiative to consider is really accelerating your deployment. This is very common what happens in the modernization phase. People go through a process of containerizing, but you want to put security at the forefront here. As you containerize, you need to be sure to understand what is the security model that containers provide. A lot of people they think that containers contain fully, and that's not really true, right? More importantly, you have to understand the security model of the orchestration environment in which you're deploying into. Right? So if you're using something like Kubernetes, what are the things you need to understand there? And finally, you really have to understand ways that you can reduce the burden you place on your internal teams. So we'll talk about that a little bit in the optimization phase. So phase 3 is the optimization phase. So this is really all about continuous improvement, as I mentioned before. So in this phase, you're integrating new capabilities, you're driving down your cost, you're creating new workloads, building on the foundation that you've had before. And on the security front, you need to be adapting to dynamic and changing threats and evolving best practices. And that's a big ask, right? A very tall order. And making sure that you have that visibility into your environment is going to help drive continuous improvement. So this is one of the core tenets of like DevOps, right? Is measure everything and continuously improve. And I think DevSecOps kind of falls into that category as well. You need to have visibility into your environment. You need to have the right tools in place. You need to have the experts to be able to interpret those findings to ensure that you're continuously driving improvements and evolving threats and the dynamic kind of threat landscape. So that gives us a great opportunity now to transition into discussing missions, managed detection and response, and why we think MDR is essential. So anything to add before we make that transition, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I think just a couple of comments here, and these are things that we've kind of touched upon before. In the optimization phase, and as you said, that's a continuous process, right? It's not like a one-time exercise.
Right.
We run into a lot. There's some incredibly smart people that are typically involved in, helping organizations kind of launch their cloud transformation program and get to that stage. And what we find is you kind of run into, the multi-hatted genius a lot in these types of scenarios where you find these engineers or architects or DevOps professionals that can pretty much do everything. But I think once you get to that point of maturity in your journey, you have to start kind of looking back and asking, does it make sense for these folks to be burdened with additional responsibilities? And security is one of the ones that I find most commonly, lots of different people have some role to play in securing the organization. And you talked a bit about, undifferentiated heavy lifting. There is a ton of undifferentiated heavy lifting associated with security, and especially with maintaining compliance. Is there a point in time where it makes sense to look back at your organization and go, how much of that can I take away from some of these, geniuses that could be going and focusing their energy and attention on things that could, have spectacular positive impacts on my company? and start to look for a partner like Mission and Alert Logic to really start to take some of that away, so I can repurpose that brain power somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's actually a really good, that entire point is a great transition into Mission MDR, right? When you're trying to make security a priority and a focus, it can be difficult to do that without distracting from your core competencies, even if you do have that capability internally, right? And in our experience, many businesses are trying to achieve these requirements, but they have this lack of expertise. Or they're deploying their expertise maybe not in the most effective ways. They have real difficulty providing 24/7 coverage, right? And there's a technology gap as well, tooling and visibility. And MDR, Mission MDR, brings this all together, right? It's bringing together the best aspects of what Alert Logic provides and Mission provides to enable businesses to meet those security and compliance goals without having to build a SOC out from the ground up, without having to build all this technology. And the way that it effectively works is Mission will instrument your AWS environment with Alert Logic's kind of market-leading detection technology. It provides you all of the visibility you need, the deep insights into your environment, and they're constantly staying on top of rapidly changing landscape of threats, right? So it's evolving. It's not a static thing. And that detection is combined with Alert Logic's 24/7 Security Operations Center. And that's staffed by these very difficult to find experts that the oil and gas companies are pulling the trucks up outside of Houston to snap them up. And similarly, Mission has a 24/7 team of an equivalently difficult to hire and retain group, AWS infrastructure experts, right? These are hands-on keyboard engineers at the ready to make changes and really adapt your environment. And if you put all that together, the combination of technology and expertise from a security perspective and an AWS perspective helps you secure your environment, okay? And it's useful to really think about how this might work in practice. So a quick example for you. So we've implemented Mission MDR for you. We've instrumented your environment with Alert Logic. Let's say we detect a threat. Alert Logic detects a threat. Perhaps you've had some drift in your security groups, and maybe something that you didn't want to be exposed is actually now exposed, and someone is potentially going to take advantage of that. Well, that threat is detected by Alert Logic, and an alert is actually sent both to Mission and to Alert Logic. And our security, or their security experts and our team will review the threat, and in Mission's AWS team will actually respond to the Alert Logic remediation recommendations, right? So this 24/7 staff on both sides are collaborating together to then go in and neutralize the threat. So the Alert Logic SOC will let us know, here's what's going on. You have this exposed, it needs to be remediated. Here are the recommendations about how you might remediate it. Our team says, I'm fully aware of this customer's environment. I'm deeply familiar with AWS. I know exactly what I need to do. They go in and they remediate the threat. All the while, your team is doing other things, right? Like innovating, sleeping, for example, because many times these threats don't happen during the middle of the day, right? And that's really one of the big values here. So that's what the magic of this MDR solution really is it's bringing together all of that expertise, all of that technology, and giving you that kind of full coverage that you need that might take you $2 to $5 million to build out yourself, but at a much more affordable price point.
So I just wanted to make a comment there as well, Jonathan. I think, I really just want to make sure we're not downplaying the importance of the human factor here, right? I know we live in a world where automation and AI and machine learning and all of these things are, hot trends and desirable for many, but it really is that human experience that we find our shared customers really, gravitate towards, right? The reality is, you have to, as an organization today, assume breach, right? You're going to find yourself in situations where bad things are going to happen. And the difference between, staring at a screen and having a set of tools versus having a human at the other end of the phone that really understands your environment and understands the nature of what's happening and understands how to not just guide you from a technology standpoint, what steps you need to take to secure your environment, but is really there to just be there for you in that moment, right? Is really something that we see our customers really get great value from, right? It really is the difference between, like you said, being able to sleep at night and not.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I'll point out here is that expertise that you're getting, it's contextualized to your business, right? Like you said, AI doesn't understand your business, right? But our experts can. We can, work with you to understand the specific requirements that you have and specific needs you have, and really have a much more contextualized response. And that can actually really significantly accelerate and prioritize the threats that we respond to and how quickly we can. So really quickly, so we talked about MDR, really about this people side of it, right, and the process side of it, but there's also the fact that you get access to the full AlertLogic platform. And it's an incredible platform, and I think let's talk through a couple of things about it. We can obviously set up a demo for you if you're interested, but to give you an idea of AlertLogic, you get a customizable dashboard first and foremost. It gives you an overview of detected vulnerabilities and threats, incidents. It's very attractive, very easy to understand, and helps you really get this kind of single pane of glass view into your environment from a security perspective. And Dan, feel free to keep me honest as I go through this. You're more an expert on AlertLogic's platform than I. This is one of my favorite features, actually, not only because it's fancy and pretty, but it's also really, really useful. It's this rich topology map of your AWS environment. Helps you visualize and drill into vulnerabilities so you can see how threats might cascade, a breach might cascade through your environment. Really, really, really helpful. And you can dive into specific aspects of the environment, maybe a particular host, to see what's going on. If you zoom in, you get details, right? You can see the recommended remediations. You need to do the following, right? And this is the same tool that our team will use to actually respond to these remediations, right? So you can see, you can drill down in. And if you're even more detail oriented, you can open exposures and incidents in kind of a list view. And this, you can also drill in and dig in even deeper to detail, track open incidents, kind of keep tabs on things. And finally, there is some really outstanding compliance reporting, right? So if you are a company who has PCI, for example, or HIPAA compliance, HITRUST, SOC 2, there's all these great kind of reports built in to kind of continuously evaluate you against these standards, make sure you're up to date and keeping up, right?
And I think what you perfectly highlighted here, Jonathan, is that, really to achieve your security goals, it's a collaboration between both Mission, AlertLogic, and our customers, right? And we're still going to ensure that you have visibility into everything, have the ability to make decisions, to guide the actions that you want us to take on your behalf. So, I don't want to give the impression that security just completely goes away and it's nothing that you need to think about, but it's more that you're informed and enabled to make quick and accurate decisions, and have the support to go and take whatever actions you need to take with all the expertise that we're bringing to the table there.
Absolutely, and it's not just a service that happens in the background, right? It can help you have a trusted advisor, right? You actually get a consultation on a regular basis with a security expert, with the Mission side and the AlertLogic side, and we come together and talk about what are your business goals, what's about to change, are we ahead of it, right? Have we updated our security frameworks? And so it really does give you that trusted advisor. I think that's really important. And I missed one feature, which is a fun one, which is the queryable security logging, right? And so you can aggregate a whole bunch of different logs throughout your environment into a unified place, searchable logag, and you can do kind of accelerated incident response as a result. So our team will heavily rely upon this, and yours can as well, as we're all kind of working together. And Dan, what I'd love to do is hand it to you to really talk about a customer case study, because I think this can really bring it home.
Yeah, appreciate it. And I think I'll take us back to kind of the top of the session here, where I kind of laid out my belief that security done right is an enabler of digital transformation and cloud success. And I think this is a perfect example of that. So very cool company called All of Us Financial, fintech startup. They're a competitor to the likes of Robinhood and eToro. Have a really cool way of rewarding folks that want to use their platform for investing. They came to us at a point in time where they were pre-revenue and pre-launch, and were really looking to solve for security ahead of even being able to enter the market that they were going into. So really the ask was enterprise-grade security, but without enterprise-grade resources, right? This was a very small, very lean team of, again, geniuses that were all doing 5 different jobs at a time, and really focused on trying to get a phenomenal product into the market, and taking on security responsibilities as an evening job, as a weekend job, sometimes as a 3 a.m. fire drill, as you mentioned, Jonathan. Unfortunately, the bad guys don't work business hours. So really the ask was enterprise-grade security, with limited resources. There was no opportunity for any corner to be cut around security as it related to their business and the product they were looking to take to market. there was no way that they would be able to go and launch a product into the financial services industry and then, have to reverse security into that product afterwards, right? It had to be at its most robust and most secure, and they needed to be able to provide evidence to their customers and to auditors that they had, the required security and compliance capabilities built in from the ground up. And whilst, they were very focused on, velocity, as we spoke about before, right, innovating at pace, that couldn't come at the expense of security at any point in that journey. And finally, we, both Mission and AlertLogic, spend a lot of time working with startups, and we're very sensitive to the fact that whilst you need, the absolute maximum grade from a security standpoint, that you also, you're in various stages of scaling your business, and that you need both a cost point and a solution that scales as you do, right? So that was also a requirement here. And we were able to deliver through managed detection and response that 24/7, 365 enterprise class security capability, but at a price point that made sense for a startup. It didn't require all of us financial to add a single additional staff member to their team. So they didn't have to go out and build out that dedicated security team. In fact, they were able to start to take away those security responsibilities from the team that was responsible for developing their applications, building their product, getting them to market faster. And as a result, they actually developed a really strong security by design mindset within their business. So every single time any decision was made that impacted their product or their customers or their offerings, security was considered, and they were able to make good decisions leveraging the technology and the expertise that we were providing. And I just absolutely love this quote from the CISO there, and really the kind of the line that really kind of gets my attention here is that they were able to go and focus their resources on what was important to them, which was delivering the best possible product as fast as possible, and doing so with peace of mind. So as a result, we were able to help them get to market faster. They didn't need to add any resources, and at no point on that journey did they have to feel like they were compromising security.
Yeah, it's a pretty powerful message, and I think that quote from that CISO is extremely powerful, right? And it really backs up kind of what we've been discussing. Focus on the things that are most important, right? And this is where the benefit of having this this expertise at your disposal really helps. So at this point, we're actually going to get ready for questions, but there's a couple things that I want to do first. So first, I want to remind you that there are handouts. So make sure to download those and take those with you. The second thing is there's a Q&A section. So as you're thinking of questions, now that we've gone through the content, please start to enter those in. We have a couple already that I'm seeing, but feel free to add more, and any clarity that you need in the chat, that's fine. And there's also a special offer, which I mentioned, which is if you're interested in discussing MDR further, you can ask for a 1-hour complimentary security consultation with a Mission Solution Architect. And you can go to the URL displayed on the slide here, missioncloud.com/AWS security review with hyphens, or you can reach out to us via phone, email, or through our website. So all of that information is there on the slide. I'm going to keep it up through the Q&A so that you have that. And before we answer the first question, I'm going to put up the last poll of the day. So let's go ahead and toss that up. And I will not share this one publicly. You don't have to worry about this. Is this something that, now that you've heard about Mission MDR, is this something you'd be interested in hearing about today, or hearing about more, learning about more? So go ahead and start allowing those to come in. And while the poll is collecting responses, also please toss those questions into the Q&A section of the GoToWebinar interface. Start to see those flying in as well. I'm seeing some good responses. We got about 20% of you voting so far. Keep it coming. Thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to keep this up, and we'll have the first question addressed. So the first question was, why should I get Mission MDR instead of trying to implement this solution myself? So this is getting right to the heart of what we talked about before. Interestingly, we talked about that investment that you require to take, right? Now, you might want to make some of that investment, right? One of the things that I think is important to note is, and Dan backed me up on this, we aren't suggesting that you don't have anybody on staff who has security as a priority. Suggesting that, there's a great deal of power in having that 24/7 coverage and having an additional access to more expertise. The market and the threat landscape is evolving constantly, and the more minds that you have at your disposal, the better you'll be. Dan, anything else to add to this question?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the expertise piece, right? I think that between us, Jonathan, we're seeing the environments of thousands of AWS customers all day, every day. We're seeing the threats that are impacting them. We're seeing what it takes to respond, as well as obviously, Mission spending a lot of time really understanding the most efficient and optimal ways to manage customers' environments and deliver the outcomes they're expecting to. You put those two things together, and you know that you've got 24/7, 365 access to a team of folks that has seen it, been there, done it, and knows how to take action rapidly in any situation that might have an impact on you. So again, replicating that capability and that visibility over the threat landscape and kind of what's going on would be really difficult to do for most, right? So it's about getting the absolute best possible solution, and typically at a fraction of the cost of, as we mentioned, building it out yourself.
Yeah, and I think the other bit on that front, we've talked a lot about the expertise, that's very important, is the actual technology itself. A lot of people ask about like, oh, why can't I just use the built-in tools and functions from AWS, right? They have native security services, why can't I just use those? And the answer is you should use those, right? But they're only providing a subset of the technology that you really need to do a complete job. And Alert Logic actually integrates with many of those native AWS security services. So it's not really an either or proposition. It's you want complete visibility, right? Take full advantage of all of the tools that are available to you, and Alert Logic can pull all that together into a single view, which is a big job.
Exactly. It's just, the way I look at it is it's just increasing the sources of intelligence that collectively, Mission and Alert Logic can consume and translate into simple actions that you can take, right? So AWS has done a tremendous job of building out some incredible security services. It's what you do with that output, right? And how quickly you can take the necessary actions that actually, give you the outcomes you're looking for. And that's really the value that we provide on top of that as a collaboration.
Absolutely. The next question we have coming in here is, can you accommodate vertical specific requests and compliance mandates? So for example, if you're in the healthcare space and maybe you have HIPAA compliance, or if you're e-commerce and you have PCI restrictions and requirements. And the answer to that is absolutely, right? Part of that expertise in the Alert Logic SOC is all about understanding all of the implications, right, of compliance requirements and threats that map to those. And in addition, we mentioned earlier and showed you in the kind of slideware demo of Alert Logic, there's a whole series of reports specifically around those kind of compliances. In addition, Mission has, I mentioned, kind of a healthcare and life sciences certification from AWS. So we have lots and lots of customers in, especially in the life sciences space, but also in healthcare. So we're well versed in that and helping make sure that you align to your requirements. And we also have the SaaS competency. So we help a lot of customers who are in SaaS, especially e-commerce businesses, and they have a lot of PCI compliance. So the answer is a broad yes. Anything else to mention there, Dan?
I think just another opportunity to highlight the value of human delivered expertise, right? I think there's obviously a ton of compliance mandates and vertical specific requirements out there that we can somewhat solve for with out of the box capabilities, but it's so much easier to really understand your business and understand things that might impact your compliance position, or things about what's happening within your industry or your organization when there's humans interacting with each other, and being able to take that information and make decisions based on it. So context is king in all of these situations, right?
Yeah, that consultative aspect of it is just so critical. Like it's really is important to hammer that home.
Yeah, especially in such a dynamic world we're living in right now, right? Where what we thought was a best practice a week ago might have changed, right? So and it's a lot easier to do that with humans that understand the problem, right?
Yep. All right, the last question I see is a question around the AWS marketplace. The question is like, I usually buy software and services through the marketplace. Can I do that here? And the answer is yes. For those of you who aren't familiar with the AWS marketplace, it is exactly what it sounds like. It is a marketplace provided by AWS that you can transact through. It comes in on your AWS bill, and you can buy software and solutions and services from ISVs and consulting partners like Mission and AlertLogic. And you can buy AlertLogic and you can buy Mission MDR through the marketplace. And the advantage of doing that is if you are the traditional advantage is that you get a consolidated bill and a unified view of your cost. But even more importantly, if you are on an enterprise agreement with Amazon and EDP, where you perhaps have made a commit to spend a certain amount of money on the AWS platform over a period of time for discounts, the AWS marketplace actually qualifies to help you retire some level of that commitment with AWS. And so if you do decide, I have maybe you have a shortfall in your commit, this is a great way to kind of accelerate, burning that down. Dan, any other notes on that front?
I think you covered it all perfectly. I mean, I think it's an opportunity for you to kind of look at the efficiency benefits and the acceleration towards your goals that this type of purchasing model can bring, as well as some of the benefits as it relates to AWS programs. So lots of goodness there to explore for sure.
Outstanding. Yeah, and for what it's worth, not every ISV and not every partner can do this and transact through the marketplace. And again, this is another one of those areas where having a partner, both a consulting partner, managed service provider, and an ISV in AlertLogic that actually have this capability with AWS. This is something that you have to do by building up this relationship and going through the process with AWS. And we're extremely well aligned, both of us, with Amazon. So you can really think of us as this triad coming together to help you in this way. All right. Well, I think we've gotten through all the questions. This has been extremely productive and enjoyable. And I really, I always learn something new when I talk to Dan and when we go through a presentation together. So I really appreciate, Dan, you being here as well. And thanks to all in attendance. I'm leaving this slide up so that you can write down that 855 number and sales@missioncloud.com and missioncloud.com, the website, and the AWS security review. Please do take advantage of this 1-hour consultation. We have some really sharp SAs who would love to sit down with you, and no cost, just really, hear what your business challenges are in the realm of security or AWS or anything at all, really, and we'll see what we can do to help. So thank you, and we look forward to seeing you at another event soon.
Thanks, everyone.